Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. So, I want to start today's session. Actually, this slide deck was taken from my another course, which is called Indic Reasoning and Debating. So, I'm actually taking some concepts from my another course here, which is the epistemology or the study of knowledge, means of knowledge. Okay, so in that series, actually I have started telling you what are the different kinds of means we have, like pratyaksham, anumanam, shabda. I think you remember these three terms. Yeah, pratyaksham, anumanam and shabda. So the direct cognition, which is called pratyaksham. So in indirect, there are two different types, like we infer and we understand language. So these are the three different knowledges we gain. And here we are going to talk about what are the means and processes involved in those knowledges. Okay. So before I enter into that, I want to ask all of you, what are the different responses we make? I think you understand what is a response. For me, any living being responds. So I am actually asking you the question that how do living beings respond and what are those different kinds of responses, in particular to human beings, because we are going to talk about their behavior and all other things. So what are the different kinds of responses we make?
Sir, verbal responses, non-verbal responses, is it?
Yeah, verbal responses and non-verbal responses. Any other responses we make? Okay, non-verbal. Can you define what is non-verbal?
The ones which we respond without using any speech. For example, expressions, gestures, as simple as nodding your head, or even that's still a response.
Yeah. And do you think there are any another important responses we make, which might not be even nodding your head or showing your hand, not talking, but are there any subtle other responses we make?
Then body language comes in probably again.
Yeah,
So
body
basically-
language is actually covered in this gestures. So hand gestures, nodding your head, body language, yeah. And any other thing do you feel?
So again,
Sir, internal response in some way, could it be?
Yes, I wanted to, yeah. So there are some internal responses also. So we have to think what is external response and what is the internal response. So external response have these verbal responses, your gestures, all these come into external responses. But when we are thinking about internal responses, what is the main ingredient or the main factor which is important in internal responses? For example, I am seeing somebody is killing a hen or a goat in front of me. I have something internal response also. It might not be, I don't show that on my face because I'm in a live show or something. But if something is happening in front of me, which I might not like or something, so something happens inside. So what is that key ingredient, which is the main factor for that response?
Bhav and Vedana.
Vedana, bhava. So which is enabling you? I think most of you understand what are those things. Bhavana and Vedana. Vedana is pain. Bhava is a kind of a word we use for emotion. You know, there are different kinds of emotions. And okay. So what is that enabling you to feel or emote or respond internally? We were thinking and talking about that for a long time. So please switch on your camera. Only there are 2 students who are switching on their camera. I like seeing people's faces while I teach. So it's my problem. I can't come out of this. Okay. Yeah. Don't mind about your background. You can blur your background on this. Thank you. So what do you think? We were talking about something called manas, isn't it? Yeah. Am I audible? ప్రవల్లిక కొంచెం ఇంటర్నెట్ ఇవ్వాలమ్మా, ఇది సరిపోవట్లా. Can you hear me now? Yeah, thank you. So this manas is a very important factor or means by which we are understanding many things. So today we shall discuss about all these things. So when I ask what are the different types of responses, Shrita answered that bodily gestures, hand gestures, showing some signs, and all these things are a kind of a response. In the same way, when I am verbally using a language, to respond to your questions or your gestures, then it is a verbal response. Okay. In another way, I want to say that any kind of response, even if it is internal or external. In my previous slide, I was showing external responses like bodily responses, verbal responses. And when I am internally responding, like using my manas, all these voluntary responses need knowledge. So I'm not talking about involuntary responses like taking breath or doing closing your eyes and opening, what you say, nimesha. We say that as nimesha in Sanskrit. Okay. There are many other involuntary responses like blood is pumping, heart is beating, and other things. But anything voluntary needs knowledge. Okay. So today, in today's session, we are talking about what are those different types of knowledge. Okay. So these responses we can classify into 3 as bodily responses, oral responses, and mental responses. You might say oral response is also a kind of a body response, but there is a slight difference in body response and oral response. And in all these responses, there is some mental component, inside component. Bodily and oral might be outside, external responses, and there is something internal also. So we'll talk about all those things. And knowledge is the key factor behind all these responses. For example, if a person is not in a state to understand anything, he cannot do all these 3 kinds of responses. There might be movements. Response is different from movement. Okay, for example, if a person is in coma for a long time, for at least 1 or 2 years, you just assume he just moves his hand once or twice in his whole 1 or 2 years of time, and we cannot take that as a response. That person is not responding because he is not knowing anything. He is not knowing because there might be another explanation by medical people. But for me, he is not responding because he is not knowing. So knowledge is the key factor behind all kinds of responses. Okay, if we want to change his response, his or her response. For example, you all might be practicing from the next year or the next year after that. So what is your lakshyam? What is your goal? So your goal will be enhancing life of your client. They might have some problem. You should enhance their life by intervening in different levels. We were also talking about Panchakosha. So if you are understanding, we can easily classify or paraphrase the problem of your client in another way. So we can paraphrase something like this. So he is not happy with his life, which means that he is not experiencing happiness. So why is he not experiencing happiness? Experiencing happiness is also a kind of a response. Is also a kind of an internal response. Experiencing happiness is a kind of an internal response. So why is he not experiencing that internal response? That might be he has something contradictory inside himself. So the contradiction of happiness is misery, sadness, dukkha. If we use our own Sanskrit terms here, so happiness might be taken as sukha and misery might be taken as dukkha. So he is having equivalent or more dukkha, which is coming in between his experience of happiness and himself. So when we are actually paraphrasing that, we can say that, okay, he has some dukkha in Annamaya level. He has some dukkha in Pranamaya, in Manomaya, and in another levels. So you can intervene accordingly. That can happen only through jnana, knowledge, because that is an internal response. Experiencing happiness is an internal response. It can happen only through knowledge. That's what we should understand. And for these responses, any kinds of responses, we need to have these three things: knowledge, intent, and response. So in Sanskrit, we say as janati, ichhati, yatate. These are the three verbs we use: janati, ichhati, and yatate. So janati means knowing. Ichhati means desiring, wishing something. And yatate is putting your effort towards that. It is called yatate. I will give you one simple example of today's class. See, I know means Surya Narayana knows that he will be very happy if his students are responding in an active way. I know my own personality or my own likes and dislikes. Okay, I want to respond in such a way. So I know that. So I have an intention. I have an intention to express my desire with all of you. I have an intention to do that because I know. And after that, I am responding in a verbal form that I made a message and posted in the group that I want you to actively participate here or something like that. In the same way, once the session is started, I asked you, please switch on your camera. I want to interact with you all. See, in this small, situation also, this process is there. Without knowledge, if I don't know what I like and what I don't like, I will not have something in that direction, which is called an intention. And if there is no intention, there is no response. Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but in the last class when we were doing, we also said manas will be gyan, ichha, and kriti. So at
Yeah.
So at that point also we said it's similar to this, that to have the knowledge, to ichha meaning the desire, and kriti is doing the procedure. So then how do we differentiate between these two things that we are
I was
learning?
telling that Manas is the key means to know Jnana, Ichha and Kriti. So to know that you need Manas intact.
Okay.
But I am here telling you the process of response. What do we need to respond? Why people respond? Because if you want to change your patient clients, I should not use the word patient. If you want to change your client's response, where you have to intervene? See, in counseling also, you might be knowing all these things, but I am telling Shastric perspective. Okay. So anything else from anybody else? Are you understanding? Yeah. Okay. See, so for me, knowledge is the first stepping stone towards any kind of response, internal or external. So first we have to know what is knowledge. So if I want to define what is knowledge, so before I say how many types of knowledge we have, I have to define what is knowledge. So knowledge is the cause of any kind of response. Knowledge is the cause of any kind of response, internal or external. For me, plant also knows something before it responds voluntarily. Even an animal, if it is responding voluntarily, so you can add this word voluntary response. Knowledge is the cause of any kind of voluntary response. So I should not use the word in the definition. See, definition and the defined should not be the same. I cannot say knowledge is knowledge and it is the definition of knowledge. No. So I should then take out the word knowledge and I say the element which is the cause of any voluntary response is knowledge. This will be the perfect definition for knowledge. So after that, we can go into what are the different kinds of knowledges we have. Okay, the first kind of knowledge is called pratyaksham. I think we were talking about this in the class also, pratyaksham. So the perceptual cognition produced by the contact between the sensory organs and the object is called pratyaksham. Sensory cognition, which is produced by the contact between the sensory organs and the object, will be the pratyaksha. Like you are hearing me with your ears, the sound I produce is received by the mic and it is enhanced by the speaker in your device, and that sound is having a contact with your sensory organ called ear, and hence you are knowing this sound I am making. This is one kind of a cognition. There is another level of cognition here. If you don't know the language I am speaking, then you don't understand. So it means that you are not knowing the next level of cognition, which might be the verbal cognition. But you are understanding the previous one, which is only sound. In the same way, we are seeing something, we are knowing, we can only know something directly, which has a relationship with your sensory organ. And there are many types of relations also. So I can give you one another example of these cognitions. One type is direct cognition. Directly, I am knowing something like the shape of a person, the color of a person, the color of a table, the sound of the fan. The fan is rotating and I'm getting a sound. All these things are directly I am knowing. But there might be something. We were discussing about a jasmine flower in our session. Yeah. So I told that I have a jasmine flower placed very far away to you. You are just seeing that, and you are also cognizing that this jasmine flower, which I am showing in the class, is having good smell. So those kinds of cognitions also come under this classification, where you are also recollecting something. I don't say that you are not recollecting anything. So you all know what is recollection, na? We talked about recollection. So recollection is called smriti or smarana. So that is one kind of another cognition. So the combination of this recollection and pratyaksha also might happen. There are many different kinds of combinations of what you say, cognition or knowledge. Okay, so this is the first type of knowledge. And the second type of knowledge is called anumiti. The second type of knowledge is called anumiti. For example, I am seeing a person with this kind of a gesture. So he is sweating all over the body. He is pressing his forehead with his hand and he's trembling, for example. So actually, I'm directly only knowing the color of his shirt or the smell or something. But I'm indirectly knowing that this fellow is not right. He has some, he might be very feverish, or he is having some uneasy. So he is uneasy. I'm inferring that. So this kind of a thing is called indirect. So you are knowing indirectly something. So this kind of a knowledge is called inferential cognition, produced by the knowledge of vyapti. This is one more important thing we have to talk. So the inferential cognition or inference is called anumiti in Sanskrit. And this is produced by the knowledge of vyapti, which is the invariable relationship between two things. So if we take this example, I have a previous knowledge of whenever a person is trembling, shaking, lot of sweat all over his body, and he seems to be very sad and pressing his body. So I know that he is not easy. He is uneasy. He is having some bodily pain. Okay. So how do I know that? I might know that by experiencing my own situation sometime. I might experience these kinds of symptoms to myself, and I know myself that I am in pain. This is one thing. I can know that by seeing others also, like my friend, my mother, my father, somebody. So in multiple places, I have been seeing these kinds of symptoms are related with a particular condition. Yeah, I might see my own son. Okay, he's having a lot of temperature, he's shaky, he's having a lot of sweat, something. So because of seeing these two symptom and a situation many a times, I build up this vyapti or the invariable correlation between two things. I build this vyapti. This is called vyapti. Again, this is a very good name. So after you complete Indian psychology course, you get a lot of names. So if somebody is asking you, so what is a good name? You can suggest many names from this. Yeah. Okay. So you are producing a vyapti for yourself. And then when you are seeing a person with these kinds of symptoms, you are recollecting this condition, symptom and condition. There is very famous example. We were also talking about this example in the class, like smoke and fire. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire. In the same way, see, wherever smoke, there is fire. How do I come to this conclusion? How can I get this vyapti? This is called vyapti. Because I am seeing those two things in many places from my childhood without any contradiction. See, if I have a contradiction, my mind will not create a vyapti. For example, a small boy of 10 years is seeing a donkey everywhere. He's seeing a mud pot. Are you understanding me? A small boy who is having limited exposure towards this world is seeing a donkey wherever he sees a pot. Now you tell me, one day he comes out of his home and sees a pot nearby. So will he not infer a donkey? Yeah. Yes. So Shrita is telling yes. What about others? There are 23 students in this class. Yes. Yes. Keshwari is telling Insia is telling, yeah. Okay. Okay. So see, we are not here to judge whether it is true or false in this stage. We are not validating whether the client who is in front of me is true or not. It's not our job right now. So our only job here is to process. Why is he getting this inference? Why is he cognizing in this way? Why is he knowing something like this? Okay. So if we go back to that small boy, in the multiple instances when he is exposed to a donkey, he was also cognizing a pot. Wherever there is a donkey, there is a pot for him. In multiple instances. Like his father is a potter and he's in his own workshop, he has a donkey. So he is using a donkey to carry mud. Mud is a very hard or heavy thing. When it is soaked in water and the clay is very heavy, it's not light. So people use donkey also to make pots, to carry the mud. So his father is using a donkey. So his uncle's workshop also has a donkey and there is pot. In this way, wherever he was exposed to a donkey, he was seeing a pot. So in his small brain, in his small experience, he might build up this vyapti jnana of wherever there is donkey, there is a pot. Now, for the first time, he is going out of his town. For the first time, he is going out of his town and he is seeing a donkey or a pot there. He will take as donkey. So for the first time, if he is going out of the town and seeing a donkey, there in that town, in the other town, those people are using donkeys to carry clothes. Like the dhobi is using the donkey, not the potter, for example. So then for the first time, if he is seeing a donkey outside the town, in the beginning, he might infer that there will be a pot here. See the process. He might infer that there will be a pot here. But he is not seeing a pot. Then he might ask somebody, hey guy, tell me why there is no pot here. I'm seeing donkey. Then that person can give him a contradictory view for the first time. That person will say, hey boy, donkey can also be used to carry clay like your father. And also a donkey can be used to carry clothes. Okay. So what is happening here? For the first time in his life, he is encountering a contradictory view of his Vyapti Jnana, of his correlation knowledge, invariably correlated knowledge of wherever there is a donkey, there is a pot. He is getting this contradictory view. When a person develops a contradictory view of his own Vyapti Jnana, that Vyapti Jnana will not work until he is validating or invalidating any of the knowledge. Okay. So after that new guy in the new town telling him that we use donkeys to carry clothes, so donkey don't have any definite correlation with pot, and he is validating that. He knows that it is true because he can see those donkeys carrying clothes and there is no pot there. So he has a validated what you say, contradictory version, validated one. So that validated contradictory view weighs heavier than his previous Vyapti Jnana. You should understand every single thing here. His contradictory experience or cognition is weighing heavier because he has validated that. So his previous knowledge was not validated. It is neither validated or invalidated. He doesn't know whether it is true or not. He knows that his new cognition, that donkey is also used to carry cloth or clothes, is validated thing, means he knows that it is truth. So it weighs heavier than his previous knowledge. Hence, hereafter, when he sees a donkey, he will not infer a pot. Are you getting me here? I will see. If you are having any doubts, please raise your hand.
Sir, so
Yeah.
he might still infer a pot, but it will not be only pot. He will also infer clothes, right?
See, inference is equal to certainty. Inference is not doubt. See,
Okay.
for example, if he might know something like this, there might be a pot or a cloth or something like that. It is not inference. It's a
Okay.
doubt. It's doubt because he knows that both pot and clothes are related with donkey. In another day, he might also infer another thing. It is only because of correlation, but inference needs a definite correlation. This is the only difference. Doubt needs correlation. Inference needs definite correlation. And the element which is called definite, it happens because of absence of contradictory view along with correlation.
Correlation. Yeah. Okay.
Anybody? Anything else you don't know now? So do you know everything till now? Yeah, understood everything, Ganesha? Yeah. Okay, so whenever there is an inference, you should understand what is the Vyapti I have. Why am I inferring this? Or if somebody is saying that I am inferring something. If I am knowing that somebody is inferring something, I should know what is the Vyapti Jnana behind that inference, which is enabling him to infer something. Okay. So these inferences are also again of two types. Swartha and Parartha. Inference can also be of two types, Swartha and Parartha. Did we talk about these two concepts in our previous class? No, no? Yeah. So, Swartha is something you infer for yourself. You are not expressing. So, when you are not expressing, it is not Parartha, it is Swartha. You're inferencing for your own purpose. Like, I have a definite correlation between a particular kind of a sound, heavy sound. Okay. So you just assume that a person is crossing a road. There is no one in that road and it is very dark. He is hearing a very loud sound from a far place. It's very dark. There is no light. Very loud sound is coming. So when there is a very loud sound, he can infer a heavy vehicle coming towards him. So he will not cross the road. He will not go onto the road, onto the middle of the road. He will stay far away from that road, isn't it? So what is the process involved here? Wherever there is this loud sound on the road, there is a heavy vehicle approaching towards me. This is the definite invariable correlation he got, which is called Vyapti. Because of multiple instances, and there is no contradictory view for him till now. So the absence of contradictory experience along with the experience of correlation, he created a Vyapti between these two things, which are called the heavy sound or the loud sound and the heavy vehicle. Okay. Because of that Vyapti, when he is cognizing that loud sound of that vehicle, he is inferring that there is a heavy vehicle approaching towards him, and because of that inference, he is not moving. So there is no response. The response is the absence of action because of the inference. And this kind of an inference is called Swartha, Swarthanumiti. So in another instance, on that same kind of a situation, a dark night, a big road, this man is accompanied by a small lady, small girl, his own daughter. Okay, he is bringing his own daughter also. Now he says to his daughter, see, are you hearing this loud sound? Yes. Because of this loud sound is related with a heavy vehicle which is approaching us. So we should not move. Okay, he explains why they should not cross the road to that girl. So here he is actually trying to express the kind of an inference he had to his own girl, own daughter. So he is using language to communicate what he is knowing, what he is inferring. And this kind of an inference, making others infer what you inferred, is called Parartha, Swartha and Parartha. Okay, while you are in your counseling sessions, you might be asking why do you think like this? Why do you think that so and so person is not good with you and all? They say that they are behaving like this, their gestures are like this, the language they use is something like this, or so on and so forth. In those conversations also, they will actually give you all the reasoning. That is a kind of a Pararthanumana. So they are explaining the inferences they have experienced to you by using language. If you know the process of Pararthanumana, so what are the key elements of Pararthanumana? You can validate or invalidate. You can say, yes, this inference is right, or no, this inference is not right. So that is why your behavior is hurting you or something. When you can intervene into the process, know the process. And if you can actually counsel him and change some parts there, his experience will be better. So that is why knowing the process of Swartha and Parartha is very, very important for me. Understood? Should I repeat something? Yeah. Anything you want to add here?
Sir,
Yeah.
so a person, for example, I feel that I have a certain inference of my own, and I tell it to you. That is Parartha.
Yes.
Irrespective of whether you accept it or not.
It is another step. So I accept or not is another case. When you are using language to express what you have inferred, that is Parartha.
Is it specifically language, or can it also be through expression and body language?
You cannot express your inference with
Yeah.
gesture. Then what happens? He is again inferring what you inferred.
Yes, again. Then that becomes
It is another thing. It is another kind, but you cannot actually intervene in those kinds of situation.
It is self-perception then.
Yeah. So, so it is self-inference for both of you. So, for example, if somebody is not liking killing a bird or an animal, for example, he changes his facial expressions, facial movements and all those things. You are seeing me and you also infer, oh, this fellow don't like seeing something killed. And what is happening here? So I am directly experiencing my grief, and I am showing in the form of a response, facial response, and you are inferring from my facial expression. That's it. But if I say something, if I use a language and say this is very bad because so and so, so and so, so and so, there is some procedure. If he is following that procedure, you can take that as a Parartha.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll move on. See, there is another kind of an knowledge which is called Upamiti. This can be actually considered as inference also, but in the Shastras, this is stated differently. So I want to tell this differently also. So we know some things because of similarity. For example, we all know what is a dog, how a dog is there, what are its characters, and how can I define a dog, what is the structure of the dog, and all these things we all know. So I get a person from the forest. So till now I don't know what is a fox. You have to assume this. So I don't have a TV in my house. I don't know. I never heard what is a fox in my life. I got a friend from the forest. He is my relative. He came to my home and he is telling me that fox is just like a dog. Fox is similar to dog. Okay, this is step 2. Step 1 is that I know what is a dog. Step 2 is that a person who knows what is a fox and a dog is telling me the similarity between fox and dog. And for the first time in my life, I am hearing the word fox. Okay, this is step 2. Step 3 is that that fellow gone. The fellow who came from the forest is not there. And I myself went to the forest for another work or something else. I went to the forest. I saw something which is similar to dog. It's not a dog. I know it's not a dog. I can make that it's not a dog because it's not shouting like a dog and it's not behaving like a dog. I know what is the behavior of dog. Okay, it's not behaving like that, but there are some similarities. Now I remember, I recollect. What do I recollect? My friend who came from the forest was telling that there is something which is called a fox, which is similar to a dog. Now, when I am seeing something which is similar to a dog, now I recollect what my friend told and I presume, I understand that this is fox. The animal which is in front of me is a fox. So what am I doing here? I am relating a name with a meaning. So the name I knew from my forester friend is fox, and the thing I am seeing in front of me is similar to the dog, and now I cognize that this is fox. Okay, this kind of a process or this kind of a cognition, which I know because of similarity, will be upamiti. Okay, in this situation, generally, if somebody is telling me that this is a fox, showing a fox, it comes under verbal cognition. While showing a fox, if somebody is saying that this is a fox, then it is called verbal cognition. Like our mothers do that when we are very young. Like they show the moon and say that, yes, this is the moon. They show grandmother and say, she is your grandmother. So all those kinds of cognitions come under verbal cognition. We know by ourselves, by knowing the similarity, indirectly, it's not directly we know. For example, if my friend didn't come to my home and say that fox is like a dog. Okay. So if I don't get my friend to my home to say to express the similarity between dog and fox, even though if I see fox in the forest, I might only know the similarity, but I can't make the relationship between a name and a meaning. Name called fox and the meaning itself fox. Are you getting me? Yeah. Any doubts here in Upamiti? Anybody? Am I clear? So if you all were in the class, in the actual class, I might actually know better whether you are knowing it or not. It's very difficult when you are not responding. Okay. So I shall infer. I shall infer that you all understood. And the reason behind my inference is silence. I can cognize silence. I can directly know the silence using my ear. This is one more aspect. The sensory organ can also cognize an existing element and also its absence. For example, if somebody asks me, whether do you have the blue book in front of you in this room, I can use my own eyes and say that there is no blue book here, which means that I can cognize blue book and also its absence with the same sensory organ, with the same source, with the same means. So I am cognizing your silence upon my question using my ear. This is called pratyaksha. So the step 1 is pratyaksha. This pratyaksha is leading to an inference, and that inference needs vyapti. What is the vyapti? According to my experience, in all the online classes I have taken, I have experienced this. Whenever I am asking a question and students are not answering or maintaining silence, this correlation, this silence is correlated with the answer which is affirmative, which is positive. If I am asking that, do you all understand? And the students are not answering anything, are very silent, I made this inference according to my own flexibility or according to my own understanding that yes, students don't have any question here. They might actually be not interested also. But for me, to my pleasure, I created this definite correlation between whenever I ask a question in an online class and people don't respond, I take in a positive way that they all understand. So according to that, I am moving on. So now see, in each and every response we make, talking is also a response. Taking a class is a response. Now, all these things, if you keenly observe what is happening, you have all these things involved. Okay. So the last one is called Shabda Bodha. Shabda Bodha is verbal cognition, and you all know what is verbal cognition. It happens because of the knowledge of language. If you don't know the language, this will not happen. For example, you all know English. I am talking in English. You are hearing the sound and you are recollecting the relationship between that particular sound to a meaning. So in my previous example, we are talking about the relationship between name and the named. Named means the meaning. So the essential part in this kind of a knowledge is the relationship between name and the named. What is the name? What is the named? For example, I say that there are a lot of books in my room. If you don't know what is the meaning of the book, what is the meaning of the word book, you cannot understand that sentence. After you know what is a book, you can understand the meaning of that statement. So knowing the relationship between a meaning and a name is called language. So if you know the language, if somebody is talking the same language, not only talking, if he's showing, if he is making sentences on the board, if he is writing a letter to you or sending a message to you, all these kinds of communication which involves words can be taken as verbal cognition. Very simple one, but there are many other processes involved. Like we were talking about this in my previous class also. What do you directly understand by using or knowing a language, or how do you know the intention between the lines? They say, do you understand what are they intent? What is their intention? So the direct meaning might be different and the intention might be different. We use the word vyangya in Sanskrit, vyangya. What is his intention? What do he want to communicate indirectly? That is also there. That is also very, very important for you people. So you need to understand what your client is intending. What is their intention? They might say something, but the intention might be different. So how can you know the intention? You can know the intention by using inference only. Okay, so that is why experienced person takes more remuneration than the newcomer. Why? These experienced people actually have more sets of Vyapti Jnanas, and they have more access to inference, more different kinds of inferences. Okay, so that is why experienced people are more valuable. Okay, so in total, I have only 4 kinds of experiences. The other kind is recollection. Recollection is only of one kind. I think we all talked about recollection. No? What is recollection? So you experience something, you store that experience in your mind. It is your memory. And if somebody is triggering your memory, you are recollecting something. Like if I ask you, what is your name? You are triggering your memory, which is related to your name, and you're uttering your own name. So that is recollection. And the other kind of the cognition is called experience. Whatever you are knowing live, L-I-V-E, live, right now. So right now, in the present time, you can know these 4 kinds of knowledges. You can produce these 4 kinds of cognitions, which are called Pratyaksham, Anumitihi, Upamitihi, and Shabda Bodha. These are the 4 kinds of experiences you can get. Okay, for example, a person is using an instrument called eye to know a cat. Okay, you need a relationship between these 2 things. Your eye should be in line with the cat, means your eye should have a relation to cognize a cat. We call that as sambandha. For example, if that cat is not in his range, in his eyes range, he cannot cognize a cat. If the cat is in another room and he is sitting in another room, he cannot cognize that cat. So the relationship between that object and the sensory organ is very important. And after seeing that cat, he can cognize like this is a brown cat. He is not uttering this sentence. I'm not saying that he will utter these sentences. I'm just saying that he can cognize this way. He can know that this is a brown cat. Okay. So here we were talking about these 3 things, na? Pramata, Pramanam, and Prameya. Do you recollect? Pramata, Pramanam, and Prameya. So Pramata is the knower, the person who is using his eyes. And the Pramana is the instrument of knowledge, which is your eye in this particular example. And Prameya is the cat, brown cat. Okay, in any process of cognition, you will have all these 3 things in anything, in inference, in verbal cognition, in upamiti, you find all these 3 things. I want to give a small homework kind of a thing, because we were talking about all these 4 kinds of knowledges. Yeah. So each one of you give an example of each knowledge, like Pratyaksham, Anumanam, means Pratyaksham, Anumiti, Upamiti, and Shabdabodha. Give one example and find what is Pramata, Pramanam, and Prameya in all those 4 kinds. So I shall give you the example. The example for the first kind of a knowledge, which is called Pratyaksham, is here. So the knower is yourself. Always the knower will not change. It will be yourself or somebody who's knowing. Pramanam and the Prameya will be changing according to the knowledge. So what is Pramanam here? your eye, your sensory organ is your pramanam. And prameya, the content of the knowledge, is the brown cat here in this particular cognition. If I say that in Shabda Bodha, it is very important if you want to complete this homework. Shabda Bodha is verbal cognition. So I am using a sentence that this is a book. I am using the sentence which is called this is a book. So the pramata, the knower, is the listener. Listener is the knower here. So if somebody is listening and he knows that language, he is the knower. 1 minute, sorry, 1 minute. So I shall describe the homework and end my session here. Okay, do you all understand what is the homework you have to do? You have to identify 4 different kinds of experiences like Pratyaksham, Anumiti, Upamiti, and Shabdabodha, and identify what is the Pramata, who is the Pramata, what is the Pramana, and what is the Prameya in all these 4 kinds of knowledges. So I am explaining how can you do with Shabdabodha. So if I say that this is a book, this is the sentence I am using, and the listener will know, hence he is the Pramata. And the Pramana is the Shabda itself, because the Shabda is the instrument of knowledge for that listener. If there is no Shabda, he can't know anything. Shabda is the word. So word is the Pramanam there. And the Prameya is the book, because I am talking about the book. The content of the knowledge is the book. Understood? Now, I will go to the another example I have here. Here, a person is seeing a fox and recollecting the similarity between a fox and the dog, and he is knowing the relationship between the word fox and the actual fox. Okay, so Pramata is the person who is actually seeing the fox. Pramanam is the similarity. If he don't know the similarity between dog and the fox, he could not know that this particular animal is fox. Okay, and the Prameya is the fox itself, because he is knowing the fox. The content of the knowledge is Prameya, he is knowing the fox. And here, Pramata is the person who is inferring. Pramata is the person who is inferring. Pramanam is the Vyapti, the definite correlation between these symptoms and the condition. Vyapti is the Pramana. And the Prameya is that no, the condition is Prameya. I am inferring his condition. Na? That will be my Prameya. Clear? Do you have any doubt here? So I can take this also as an internal thing for 5 marks. So this can be taken as the second internal assignment. The first one will be writing a small paragraph on each term you learned, and this can be the second one. And the third one will keep the bigger one, the Panchakosha thing, which I am going to write some more. I have to actually explain it in a detailed way. So that we can keep as the third one. And I think that we have 40 marks as internal. Na? So 5, 5, 10 marks for these two assignments and 30 marks for that can be done. Okay. So this one you will know easily because we have given the example right away. So these are the 4 things you have to make. I will also write what is the assignment on the group. Okay. If you have any doubt, you can refer to this video also. Yeah. Okay, then we shall meet again in the campus next week. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.